Evaded by the enigmas and riddles of the
Welcome to Mazecast number 2. I don't remember whether we actually called the first one Mazecast, and this one actually isn't entitled Mazecast on YouTube, but that's what I'm calling it for the moment. So we've got Alex here.
Yo.
And Greg.
I am Joe.
Yeah. And we're also joined by special guest Ben Heaton tonight.
Hello, everybody.
No special effects, please. Okay. Ben, you weren't here for the first podcast. If you maybe just want to briefly detail your history with Maze, how you came to it, you came to be part of the maze solving effort this time around.
Well, I first read Maze as a small child and made very little progress on it of any kind. Basically just, mapping out the room connections, finding a route that way, but not actually solving any of the riddles within rooms. And then, actually, you got me back into it a few months ago. You, Vincent, we had been talking about online, and I ordered a used copy online, started reading it again, and exploring what there was left to find in there.
So had there really been that big of a gap? Like it was like, wow.
How did you talking about it online?
How did that come up? I think, Vincent, you were citing it as a major influence on you. And I mentioned that I'd seen that a lot of puzzle-type people online also seem to have been strongly influenced by it. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because from a puzzle perspective, it's kind of flawed. I mean, it doesn't have very obvious in retrospect solutions as far as we know.
What do you mean by obvious in retrospect?
Like a lot of the things that we've been finding they're not things where when you see it, you have that moment of, oh, of course, this is the clear solution to it. It's more, oh, if you count the number of this thing and the number of this thing, it might combine to make one of these door numbers. Hey, do any of you guys think that sounds plausible? What did I see here?
I disagree in the sense that, like, I see what you're saying, but I also disagree in the sense that once you start looking at the different type of puzzles that exist in this world, and specifically the ones that White Raven was talking about on his Maze Theory page, he talks about stuff like matching stuff up, and that's pretty much the only technique I use for room 4. And like once you match stuff, you do kind of have that, oh my god, it's there sort of perspective on things. But I see what you're saying. Like it's hard to make that bell curve of like it's a learning curve sort of, but it's tough at first. But once you get there, it's easy to see the techniques being used again and again throughout days.
Well, here's what I wonder. So I don't know about the rest of you, but I kind of work Maze backwards. I already know the right door.
Right.
Everyone does. No one in the history of Maze has ever actually used a room clue to find the right door.
Right.
I could imagine somebody might have done that for the first room.
17.
Never.
17.
For 17, yeah.
Okay. Hidden door. Sure.
Yeah, well, the hidden door is kind of exceptional within Maze.
Yeah, it's the easiest one because it's an exception.
Yeah, and when you list out all the connections, if you haven't found that door, you realize pretty quickly that you must be missing something.
Yeah.
The one with
the Greg. I interrupted you. What were you saying about coming to it backwards?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Well, I think that I'm sorry. What's your name with the headphones? Dan. Okay. Yeah. I think some evidence to support what he was saying earlier is that I don't know anyone who's actually used the clues to find the room in the first place. So it's not so clear in that respect. You kind of I don't know. It's an interesting thought experiment, I think, to think about it, whether or not you could actually find the room based on the clues in the first place, not already knowing the room. But since anyone who's delved into maze enough to actually tell the room already knows the room numbers, it's kind of hard to get an actual sample of anyone who's done that. But maybe back in the 80s, I don't know.
No, I
think it would be possible for room 1.
Yeah, you're right. I'm
not sure it would be possible for room 26.
I was deliberately exaggerating there, but it's mostly true that people trying to solve maze are doing so with the answers already in mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
The vast majority.
Yeah. Alex made reference to room 4, which we almost entirely cracked by White Raven standards this week. In fact, it just happened over the last 24 hours or so. That's a big deal this week.
It was exciting.
That was a groundbreaker, I think, just getting over that hump of most of the objects.
Yes, and I'm not fully up to date on what's been discovered in room 4. Yeah, so potentially some of our viewers might not be either.
Well, let's talk about room 4. Let's talk about what happened.
Yeah, sure.
You want to comment on our protests?
All right, everybody at home, turn your copy of Maze to page 4, room 4.
Page 4. Yeah, what page is room 4?
In mine, it's on page 3.
4.
Okay.
I put a printed copies.
In room 4, we already knew we had this collection of objects that suggested a series of verbs that ended with IT. You know, a hammer,
lit, and so on.
Fit, sit, and split. And we had that. We didn't do much with it. We said that was an indication of the word it, which is part of the riddle of the maze. Alex pointed out last night that the axe is in front of the 2 doors, which are the correct doors for room 4. Remember that room 4 is the one door or the one room that you pass through twice on the path, on the shortest path.
Right, the figure 8 type deal.
And the axe passes through both 15 and 29. And so he said that, and I thought that was huge. I mean, it seems so obvious that it's in front of the 2 right doors, but again, I keep making this mistake of not looking at things as 2-dimensional depictions of the room. Like if you were actually in the room, that axe wouldn't strike you as being in front of 29.
It's all about the perspective and how it's drawn, and you got to always remember that the shadows, the placement of objects where they're pointing, where they might not be pointing if you were standing somewhere else. And of course, the other connection, the heads and tails, like the head of the axe, you usually say heads first, I guess, and the tails later, or at least that's how I do it. You never say you want to play tails and heads?
When you get the tail's coming out of your butt, so you back out.
I'm imagining in Canada a group of kids sitting in a circle around a coin, playing a game of heads and tails. Well, I mean, the way I said it was it's the head of the axe that's going into the wood. I don't know. Maybe that, I don't know how convincing that is. It seemed...
Okay, so what did you say next about the other objects?
Oh, right. So then what I noticed about the objects then, and it was something we'd sort of noticed before but hadn't concretized.
But you put the nail on the head.
They all suggest these verbs, but most of them are not actually being used in that way. The candle is unlit, the chair is not being sit in, and the pegs and the holes are not actually being fit together. Where on the other hand, the axe is splitting the log and has been used to split some other logs. So that's why they're putting that together with the fact that that's the object that's in front of the 2 doors. I said, that's the odd object out. And so that's our marker that those are the correct doors. And then White Raven didn't like that and said, that is not quite right. And so I said, okay, well, the hammer.
I think we were right about that.
The hammer hasn't been used apparently to hit in the two nails.
Right. Well, they're hammered in kind of loosely.
No, exactly. They're totally loose, man.
Yeah.
So the hammer has been used as well. So the hammer points, and the hammer does. The head of it points in the direction of the two doors, and I mean, and there are two nails. There's something to it.
That part seems a little loose to me.
What's that?
That part seems a little loose to me.
Yeah. Well, with the hammer pointing to the doors seems loose. I mean, it looks like more like it's pointing to the axe. Like, look at the axe.
Well, that's whatever way you want it.
The axe is in the area with those doors. It's overlaying those too.
Yeah. It's all symmetrical if you put a ruler down it.
But hey, that's how we got our puzzle points in room 4. And then there's some other odd things in there that have been listed as puzzle solutions. We don't need to go into all of them, but some weird stuff that I think we largely dispute. But
I think that's the major one, though. I think that's the major one is the 2 objects, or the 4 objects that are paired with each other that haven't done something yet, and then the third one that has. And then I'm not sure. I mean, you guys say that, sit, that's another IT word, and maybe it's paired with somebody sitting in the chair, perhaps the guide. In any case,
the guide hasn't sat yet, but he talks about, he implies that he's going to sit. Because
I was still standing with the rest of them.
It was everything that happened. And at the point where the cat runs by, he's still standing. But he says still. If he hadn't said still, it might be like he's just standing with the others. But since he's still standing, that means there's a point in the future where he's not standing.
Well, or it could mean there's a point in the future where he won't be standing with the rest of them.
Right.
He's
But
not
in the context of
the other side.
In the context of everything else, I think it's supposed to mean that he does sit.
Well, I just mean in the sense that there's still, on the salvo meter, there's still like one more thing. I don't know if it's chair related. I'm pretty sure it's not because of
but the poster.
yeah,
Right around the poster. I think David Jetley, he put it to bed.
Wait, which poster?
Yeah, he did. Dave, if you're watching this, kudos on that, because I think that's a pretty no-brainer now that you look at it. The concept was fix, so it's another IT word. It's the peg going into the axle, as some people want to call it. And then there's a second one which does not have an arrow pointing to it. So Gentile said, well, what is if it's an out arrow, like you're taking the square peg out of the square hole? Huh. And so
there isn't an arrow there.
Yeah, so like he's not making it too obvious that it's in like an in-out concept. So I thought
that's like that. It is the room where you go for in and out,
and so that reinforces the whole two duality, like 2-door concept here for the 2.
All right, let's.
I like that.
Anyway,
all right, let's get started with the discussion of the particular rooms.
We had homework assignments.
What's that?
We had homework assignments. I was telling the viewing audience we had homework assignments where we were going to talk about, where we were going to kind of solve on our own or think about 3 particular rooms, and then we're going to talk right now.
Yeah, we're going to do. Greg's gonna talk about room 19 for a bit and summarize what's been deduced or noticed so far. I think with 19.
Looking forward to that.
It's going to be entirely what's been noticed, not what's been solved in 19. I'm going to talk about 20, and Alex is going to talk about 44. So let's go ahead and start with 19. Okay, with you, Greg.
Yeah. So to be clear, or how I understood what we were going to do is, like, one person's going to introduce the room, and then we're all going to talk about our thoughts and try to move past that, right? Okay. So 19, most of what's been observed, there's not a lot, and it's kind of mainly what I've observed, I think. So we have a little gnome-like painter. Maybe I'll hold it up here. We have a gnome painter. We assume he's a painter because there's an easel and a painting in front of him. and he's got a little hat like a gnome, and he's holding up a paintbrush like this. And then behind him, there's a bathed in light is a statue that looks like it could be kind of a semi-symmetrical mirror image of the back of that gnome, except this is a mightier version in the light, holding, instead of a paintbrush, a staff with a sun-like thing on the top. Okay, so that's kind of what we're seeing. We're seeing some conical trees, which echo the hat, and then beams of light. And I can talk about all that when we get into kind of, I mean, these are observations I made after. The text, this room interests me in that the text almost entirely takes place outside of what we're seeing. So what we're looking at is this gnome thing, but they move away from that, the people, the visitors, and the guy pretty quickly in the narrative. And they're out kind of, I think, in the sunlight, and there's a bench and flowers and palms and browns and doing some other stuff. So that's what we're looking at. And we have two rooms, 11 and 31. 11 is a trap room, so we don't want to go in there. We want to go in 31, but what we're trying to figure out is why we want to go into 31. If we didn't know that we were trying to go into 31, what about this room points us that way? Is that a fair summary of room 19?
Yes, it is.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because we don't know a lot about what's going on in there. I think, Greg, you had suggested before that the asymmetry between the statue and the painter was maybe reflective of the asymmetry in the room solution, like 31 as opposed to 11.
Yeah, but I didn't get any points for that. So I still think that's the closest solution I can come up with so far. But 31 is an asymmetrical number. 3 does not look like one, whereas 11 is symmetrical. So my idea was that the kind of symmetry was to make you think along the lines of symmetry, but the two figures are very different, even though they have the similarity. So I think the gnome is maybe hopefully wearing clothes, whereas the statue is naked. The statue is much buffer and taller than the gnome.
Well, it's not.
He doesn't have a hat.
He doesn't have a beard.
No.
Yeah, well, he could have a beard. You can't tell with the statue because he got back to it.
And it looks like he at least doesn't have as much of a beard as the painter.
Just to smell. I don't know about the beard. It's a well trimmed beard if it is a beard.
I mean, I'm not really
They have similar hat.
That's clear. And their pose is kind of similar. They both have that right arm.
Yeah. So your idea is that because the two figures are different, it's clear that you should go to a room where the two digits are different?
Kind of, but they want you to think along the lines of symmetry because they're symmetrical enough. Like it's like a funhouse mirror has been put in between, like behind the gnome, and we're seeing the back of his reflection, but distorted. That's kind of what it looks like, but magically distorted in a maze way. So that's what I had up until this last week of study. Well, not a full week. And then I've made some observations since then, but I don't know if I want to keep talking. Maybe we should all go round robin or something.
Well, one thing I noticed about this room that doesn't immediately lead to a solution or anything, something I noticed right now is that these plants in it are the same shape as those hats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's something to be done with that kind of narrow triangular shape.
Well, there's 6 cones that I count.
Right. There's 3 legs on the easel. There's 1 cat behind Vincent. It's gone now.
There's 3 rays of light as well, and it's also mentioned in the text that light is mentioned a lot.
Yeah.
That's a good point. There aren't a lot of connections immediately obvious to draw between the text and the picture because, as Greg said, the narrative takes place almost entirely in a different location.
Yeah, it's not running at this theme.
Yeah, the light does seem to be a unifying aspect. I mean, they mention the late afternoon sun, which it's unusual for Manson to specify a time that things are taking place. They say that they moved into the yard, squinting at the strong light. The statue seems to have an image of a sun on the end of a staff.
That sun has 11 points, by the way. But
if you look closely, I don't know if it's copy, but it doesn't even. It's not totally clear that the sun is attached to that staff. Does it look that way to anyone else? Like it almost looks like in.
Oh, you think it's like the
it's like
the door to 17?
Yes, I think so. Maybe.
oh, like it's actually the sun.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It looks like kind of a cartoony way for him to draw the actual sun.
But the shadows don't match up to the sun. If that's what it was.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe the set on a planet with two
Sun
suns.
now, Alex.
Oh yeah, the other thing I wanted to say was we talked about this before. Maybe it's a misprint, but maybe it's not. Do you guys see there's like a little white dot below the one on 31? Like in the darkness of the shadow of that.
Below the one?
Yeah, like I think Vincent said he had the same.
I don't see it. I mean, the dark area in there are a lot of small little white specks, but that's the same for any dark area in the book.
Okay, so you don't have like a
With the
big white
dark
speck.
style.
I don't have a dot below that.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it's just my misprint though. You know how he is with details. I didn't want to. Look.
So
It does sound like something worth looking into. Any odd detail like that is potentially important.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially the matches in the autumn room and the Def Leopard room.
Oh, yeah. Are we officially calling it that now?
I call it down on the wiki.
All right.
so
That's canon now.
go ahead.
Something I noticed or thought of today when I was looking at the statue and thinking, right, we're always on the lookout for this reference to Manson that's going to be somewhere in the books. I don't know whether I'm just projecting that too often, but we do have, this guy with the sun on a stick. And I was thinking, the way it looks is it's kind of like Sun Man, but he's facing backwards, so it could be man's son. And he is like modeled after apparently the artist who's there, which I guess could reasonably be Manson himself. Although it hasn't been suggested to us that Manson himself is drawn into the book, just that the word Manson is clued, so that's probably taking it too far. But really the reason why it occurred to me was just because looking at that dude's face, it reminded me of Manson's face as it's shown on their website.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So, we need to look at Manson from behind when he's naked. See if it matches up.
Okay, listen, we're gonna smuggle you into his house, Ben, and then we're gonna make sure that his wife's not there, and you're gonna have to pull some deep cover in his back.
He might get jealous.
Well, we don't know what his wife's into. So one thing that just occurred to me is we're assuming that's a painting there, but it could very well be a mirror. I don't know.
Propped up on an easel?
Yeah, could be.
Well, it looks to me like holding a paintbrush and a palette.
Yeah.
Well, but I don't see a brush type tip to that thing he's holding. It could be a stick for unrelated reasons.
Yeah, but the brush would be the brush would be at the bottom of his hand, and so it would be over top of where his sleeve is. You wouldn't.
Yeah, you're right.
He doesn't want paint to drip all over his hand. He's a very clean person.
Well, he uses woodcuts anyway, so it's not the same
You
medium.
wouldn't be able to distinguish the tip of the brush from the background images.
Yeah. So a little bit more I had, there's 3 instances of me and looking. So there's the squinting at the strong light, which I think someone already mentioned. I think that pairs pretty closely with the girl looking him in the eye. So the eye is equivalent to the strong light in some way, which makes me think of the sun, which can be thought of as an eye. And then how they leave is they want to see something new. So there's something going on with those 3 lookings, I think, but I really don't know what it is.
Well, the dude's looking, the artist, and he's looking at us. Well, as far as we can see, we can't see his pupils, but he seems to be looking in our direction.
Yeah.
And the other, I think, can't remember who mentioned it, but somebody mentioned it. Maybe it was on Bailey's site or no, it must have been Abyss. It's not necessarily this guy who said get out of the way.
Yeah, I think I said that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
someone
text they make you assume certain things, but one thing I've figured out is that unless it says something explicitly, or even if it said something explicitly, you can't really assume it's saying what you think it's saying. It could just be dumb. Like 8, which we were kind of working today or yesterday, the breaking of the bowl, or there's a lot of things that they just kind of you assume by a connection, but might not actually be narratively taking place.
Or the other thing it could mean when they seem to be obviously talking about something but don't use the word. I keep saying they, like there's some mystical force behind it.
Right.
But,
it could be the word itself is important.
yes. So when they don't...
Remember, they don't have animal.
Right. Say bear. So it could be... But see, the problem is we don't know what to call this person. This is an artist,
Painter,
a wizard. Is he wearing a dunce cap?
Right. It looks a lot like a garden gnome.
Yeah, I mean that's always been my thought until Alex said wizard recently. I never really questioned. I always, it looks like David the Gnome to me.
Yeah.
Well, comical hats are a big theme in Maze.
It's true.
Like there's those guys 26. That's not quite the same type of hat, though.
There's lots of different.
This one has more pointy.
This is the only pointy hat, fully pointy, but there's similar hats.
Yeah, and I've got fezzes occasionally.
Maybe he knows where the top hat man is.
It's also that restless and impatient to see something new line in the narrative, which is kind of tricky.
Like children.
Yeah.
You came here from 31. That will suggest to you that you should go to 11, which of course is wrong.
Right, and you couldn't come here from 11. Are there rooms that go to 19? Well,
45.
23, 45 does?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, both from the path.
Right. I think the important thing in that line is the seeing something new. I don't know. Just because there's so much to do with light. Like the gnome, the painter gnome is in darkness. The other gnome is in light. And Raven mentioned how light and dark figures into a lot of his version of solutions. So I feel like there's got to be something going on with the light here.
Yeah. Unfortunately, both the numbered doors that patch of floor right in front of them is both light. I was hoping that that would be arranged so one was light and one was dark. That would have been nice. Would not be the case.
Yeah, but you also got to know that the other two doors are in darkness. Otherwise, they're on.
That's true.
And you're in the loop, so you want to get the hell out of there anyway. So maybe he's saying that light is bad in this room.
You could see the 3 and 31. I mean, you could see 31 not as just not being symmetrical in itself like 11 is, but actually violating the symmetry of that entire wall there. Like, you've got everything patterned there. You've got
everything's lined up, all the trees.
Yeah.
Right. So
part of it.
A series of numbers that goes like 1, 1, 1, 3. The 3 is violating a sense of symmetry that's imposed there.
Yeah, you're right.
Is there anything that mirrors that, though? Is there anything else that doesn't match? That is also symmetry.
It's 1, 3, and 3 1s. That's a kind of symmetry.
Oh, you mean with the bush, one bush, the number 3, and then
Or something like that. What about the marble bench? I always thought that was a tomb because there's
Yeah, I think so. 'Cause the flowers like there for some other reason.
I never thought about that.
yeah, it's not a bench. It's got to be a tomb, and I had to tell her the truth, aka no, I didn't pick them for you. It was for whoever died.
Or even creepier, he did pick them for her, and it's her too.
Right.
And then someone's singing somewhere else. Oh, to do with that.
It could be those musicians with the flange and Rio.
No, it was actually Greg at the beginning of this podcast.
I thought my diction was very clear. I don't think the singing relates to those musicians.
Was it a brio though?
A little tangent.
There's no indication the musicians are singing, right?
Right.
Right. Yeah, they don't seem to be actually.
And usually when it refers to them, it just talks about music.
Well, they perform. They do perform. He mentions that.
Someone also, this is something I should have mentioned in my intro because this is old news. Someone suggested that the singing might be birdsong. That singing, you can't make out the words. I can't credit that, but that's on with this somewhere.
Could be a dirge in keeping the funereal theme.
You could.
But what is this, man? We don't have this funeral or cemetery thing. Doesn't really seem to do anything for us yet.
No. I just wanted to mention it that it could be a red herring or something. It's just like you start thinking about it and you get distracted from all the other stuff.
Right, like that would fit with the sentence, right? You're listening to the singing, but you can't make out the words. It doesn't actually tell you anything. But my inclination is that it means something. But I could see it being a herring too. Yeah.
All right. Anything else on room 19?
I think that's all I got.
All right. We'll go to room.
Still feeling serious.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting us to solve anything in the course of that discussion. It's just kind of out there for future discussion.
Yeah.
It would be kind of
Right.
solve something.
Record of the state of knowledge there.
Yeah.
It's not like we had nothing.
I think we moved forward on it. We took steps. And that's kind of how a lot of these work. You kind of just take steps and eventually something clicks and you have the solution.
You got to always look at it with fresh eyes every time you look. Just never repeat something that you did before that didn't get anywhere.
Yeah, and it could be some listener was hearing that and came up with an insight that none of us mentioned. And if you had that experience just now, please let us know.
Dial 1-800-Manson-2.
You say Manson-tude?
Oh, we will be giving you Christopher Manson's home phone number at the end of this broadcast. You call Mr. Manson and let him know how much you enjoyed this book. He does appreciate unsolicited phone calls and visits to his own home, front door.
At any time, day or night.
Especially in the shower.
Don't die about some of his wife's famous lemon squares. She always has some tucked away. Okay.
Right next to her shotgun.
Room 20.
So is that it for 19?
We went on to room number 20.
All right.
Room 20.
Well, the obvious.
Room 20.
Is this your room, Vince?
Yes.
Okay.
Room 20 is interesting on Into the Abyss in that we've got 3 out of 5 stars and we've solved basically nothing about it. We get the S for the riddle of the past, which is kind of a give me because it's just sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
We know that 1 is the correct room to go to on the path, so we get that, and that's totally obvious. And then someone interpreting the remark with backward looks, saying that that's indicative of it being at the end of the path. We got a point for that.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you can work that out from the fact that this leads to room 1, which is the end if you're going back out.
I would give that.
I don't need a clue.
You know what I like? I like the Omega carpet.
You wouldn't know that before you mapped it out, that just because a room goes to 1, that it's the end of the journey.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, let's say you've gone to the center of the maze and you're on your way back out. You're trying to find room 1.
Yeah.
Get to this room. You look at the doors. One of them goes to room 1. You can probably work it out from there.
Yeah, Ben's got a point. Ben's got a point.
Not a clue that tells you to go to room 1. Here, listen. There's something else related in there, which I'm kind of surprised didn't get clue points similarly, because to me, I think it's pretty obvious. And again, it doesn't tell you to go to room 1 because you already know it, but I think it's just kind of like if you want to use the term Easter egg, that someone did, but it's not an Easter egg either because it's in plain sight. The tortoise that's there at the end of the trip, I think, pairs with the hare.
Yeah.
Back in 15. It's the fable, the tortoise and the hare. The tortoise has made it to the end first. I think that's
kind of neat.
One of the purposes of the tortoise being at the end of the journey and the hare being resting on the chair back in room 15. But I'm pretty sure that's been mentioned on Into the Abyss, and no puzzle points granted.
Well, what about the Omega in the carpet?
All right, Jesus Christ, man. Let me go through this stuff.
Nope. You mean there's more?
Why didn't you back the Omega in the carpet, Vincent?
Sorry, bro. I forgot that was a spoiler. No.
Everybody slow down a little bit.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing about the correct door from 20 is that if you're following the true path, the correct door is 1, but that's also completely obvious. So it would seem like there's no reason to have a room full of clues there, kind of the same way that 17 is when you're heading into the center of the maze. So I wonder whether the objects in the room are actually meant to clue towards room 5, because if you're heading into the center of the maze and you go to 20, 5 is the best room to go to get to 45.
Yeah, to get back on the short path.
Yeah, you go to 5 and then the 30. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know that any rooms besides 4 clue to 2 different rooms. Most of the rooms on the true path, should point you in different directions based on whether you're going in or out, but I don't think they do. They just point you in the direction they want you to go. So I don't know whether 20 really points you in a different direction or not, but it's a possibility.
I think it does. I think it's like both ways, yeah. And so if you look at the towers there, right? The tower is supposed to be a symbol of ending. Things are over when you get the tower. I think in tarot. I just vaguely remember that. You have 2 towers here. One is by 1, okay, and there's several signs that this is the last room. The other tower is leaning towards 5, and I think that's like if you're still going forward, if you're still building, you go that way.
So, I mean, you're using the tarot tower, as a symbol of ending, but then the tower, it's not a tarot tower, as a symbol of
construction.
Yeah, moving forward, and it's leaning towards 5. It might be just like the case where it's pointing that way.
It might be the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Oh.
Yeah, not sure where I'm going with that. The room that got us started on looking for tarot references in Maze, right? Because this one is so obvious.
Well, this one over 27, I don't know, but they're both connected, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Which makes you want to make some more tarot connections after that. Yeah, because if you go to 27, which is the door, well, it's a door that's near the tarot. I guess the tarot card is actually closer to door 1 or 27, so I don't know.
We're kind of leaning forward.
Yeah. In any case, yeah, we've got this room with an obvious, undisputable tarot card in it, and then
Right.
you pick it up for 27 with the clear, or rather clear, reference to the tarot card, the Hermit. Yeah, we don't know what to do with that.
Yeah. One more thing about that, showing that this is the ending. You first hear the ringing in room 1, right? And if you're on the right path, you see the bell in room 26, then you go for a while, and then you come back here, and then the ringing stops. So there's kind of this symmetry between the two ringing, the bell in 26, and then the telephone here, which is kind of, I think that's kind of Easter eggy too.
So wait, if they hear some ringing sound in room 1, and then once they're in this room, the ringing stops. Are these guys listening to ringing sounds the whole time they're in the maze?
So,
is that what we're supposed to piece together?
yeah. Another interesting thing about this room compared with 26 is in room 1, they're the two that aren't anagrammed, right? So Kale and Yarn both are kind of mixed up in there, but Story I think is kind of like the second best option from room 1. And you can go forward through room 5 and get on the path pretty quick from there. What do you all think about the letter T? Can you find 5 instances of the letter T in this room?
Yeah, I made a big deal on that. I mean, sort of facetiously, but I made a big deal on the Abyss about there being 5 things that start with the letter T, but actually I didn't count the table. So, I don't know. But then, on the other hand, I'm not...
Arrow?
Yeah. I didn't count tarot and tower, but the
but there's another tower distinct from the tarot tower.
Right. I counted the tower and the tarot card. The tortoise, the telephone, turban. I didn't count the table. I'm not totally sure that turban, though. I mean...
You could call it that for the purpose of T.
Turban-ish.
Because he's not anybody in particular.
That's important.
That tower on the chair is tilted.
Yeah. It is a leaning tower.
Yeah, it's hard to...
Some of that wood paneling is T.
All right. I was just looking at images of Galileo when Ben mentioned the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and the guy in the picture, I guess, could plausibly be Galileo, but I'd still have information.
I think that's good, man.
No, he's not Galileo.
I have no idea what Galileo looks like. I'm going to look this up.
Like that guy, but he's whatever.
Why would he be wearing...
That doesn't look that much like Galileo.
Why would
Galileo ever depicted with a turban?
No, not like that. Not like that.
What turban does he have?
Well, he had an Italian... Sure, he had ass back in Italy. Back in the day.
This man is Turkish.
Yeah, it's more...
How do we know these?
It's not Italian.
He's Turkish. I think he's on the Magnificent, who is very good at sieging towers.
Ah.
Okay.
So we have another T, a Turk.
We got a bunch of T's that we don't know what to do with. I know it is room 20, T, the 20th letter of the alphabet, but that doesn't help us either.
This room is a big T.
Ooh, maybe that's it.
I don't think that's it.
No, it is. You thought of it, so it's true. That's what I'm learning.
A lot more faith in my thoughts than I do.
I like it, man. T's. Okay. Well, maybe something there. Just one more word on the tarot card. You know, I had to look up stuff about the tower, and yeah, apparently the tower card is like real bad news. At least according
like what people imagine.
It's like unrest. It's unrest and upheaval.
Yeah, they note it's not used in any game, which I thought was hilarious.
That's strange.
Yeah, apparently it's just such...
There's got to be some game.
I'm going to make a game that uses it.
Well, you'll have to change Wikipedia then.
Yeah.
It's not used as part of any game. Wow, it does say that. I'm pretty sure that's false.
It's really hard to make a statement like that. It's make a game.
It's not a game.
Yeah.
Well, do games include readings? Like, if you get a tarot reading, is that considered a game?
Yeah.
What about if you...
It's used in divination, but not games, apparently. I'm sure someone sometime has used it in a game.
I'm making a game right now. It's a variant of the common game Heads or Tails, But you cards. What is the tower? The other is I don't know, the sun. That's a good card, right?
I did make a game that uses the tower. I remember this. When I was in college, I made a game that combines Pokemon cards and chess and tarot cards. And I didn't take the tower out for that game.
Yeah, I would think that if somebody, for some reason, wants to make a game that uses the tarot cards, outside they're going to just use all of them, right?
Right.
They don't think they're going to remove the tower because Wikipedia says that's dangerous.
Mystery cracked by the Maze Masters. I'm just going to said it's not used in card games. Okay. I'm sure someone has used it in a card game at some point. But it's apparently a very bad omen. It's a very bad card.
Well, Vincent, you're obviously lying because it's used in some games.
You're obviously lying.
So there's a statement. I got two statements that I want to say something about, and then I'll probably be about done with what I've got to say about it. We've got this phrase, too many animals for a proper house. And my aunt was actually at the house last weekend, and she was looking at Maze for the first time, and she looked at that. She's like, what are they talking about? There's only one animal here. And I was like, well, if you hadn't come here first, you might have seen some other animals before you came here. So, but then, it is one of the first rooms that you can come to. And in fact, the back of the book, where it's giving you bad advice on how to go through the maze,
immediately.
So it does suggest to me that maybe we should be thinking of other things as animals. Like we've mentioned, you have owls, which could be considered rooks, and a rook is also the name of an animal. They've got the rear end they've got the shaft of an arrow, and according to my 5 minutes of research on Google, the feathers, the fletching, is that what they're called? And the arrow are called hens and cocks. There's one feather that's called the cock, and then the other feathers are called. So there are some other animal references in the room, maybe. I'm not sure that does anything for us, but I thought it was worth mentioning that there's this line about saying there are too many animals when this, isn't all, and a great deal of likelihood the first animal that you encounter as you're going through the maze is just one animal. The other thing,
another indicator is the last room. But go on, sorry.
Yeah, that could just be if you go here first, the narrative doesn't really fit with that making sense. So that's sort of a clue that you shouldn't go there first.
That's a good point. The other
on the cover of the book.
That's true.
You would have seen that.
Maybe find a picture of a fish.
Right.
The other thing,
I don't think that's actually important to this, though. I think it's just a red herring.
Okay.
I bet for when Vincent was drinking.
Yeah. The other thing is where it says they walked carefully around the edges of the room, which suggests to me that we should be looking carefully about the edges of the room, but it hasn't done me any good yet. Yeah, I looked at the symbols on the carpet. I've noticed that it looks sort of like an omega symbol.
Yeah.
Something, but to me, it's like if he really wanted it to look like an omega symbol, he would have made it an omega symbol, not something that sort of looks a little like an omega symbol. So I don't know.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't have had that bit in the middle of the omegas.
It's true.
Yeah.
I think he's just trying to make the omega symbol not look too obvious. So you're clued to look at around the edges of the carpet by the text, and then you're like, oh, that looks like an omega symbol. This must be the last room. I think that's probably the thought process that went into that there. But if it was just like, if he didn't have any embellishment on it, it would just be too obviously an omega symbol, and then you wouldn't have to tie in the text at all.
Well, you put that on the site, and he didn't give you a point for it. So,
well,
I guess more, survey says no.
Yeah. That's what White Raven said.
Yeah, I don't think we want to go entirely based on what gives us the focal point.
But I'm not terribly convinced of it either. But it could be that this room is just a bunch of indications that this should be your last room coming back. the showing the end of the arrow, not the point, the part that's pointing you forward, could be mean to suggest that this is the back end, the end of your journey.
The only element in this room that's never figured into any thinking for me is the chair. And does anyone have any idea why that chair might be there?
No, that's the last.
Oddly patterned too.
Well, it's just
Echoes the mirror.
Yeah.
it does have a really lumpy cushion there.
Right.
What would you call that?
Luger that cushion.
Is that tartan? Is that what you would call that powder?
Yeah.
That's got that white cloth over the back of it, but once again, it's a chair. Maybe the chairs themselves form some kind of a pattern. There are a lot of rooms with a chair in the corner we don't know what to do with.
Right. Yeah, I guess that could be tartan.
Like as much as you could draw it in black and white.
Yeah.
I don't even know what tartan means as a pattern.
It's like what you have on a kilt.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's what.
Line.
No, I'm not going anywhere with this. I'm just trying to figure out if it's relevant,
Like a T. I mean, that seems legit.
Yeah, though, if you're trying to show tartan, you'd probably just put a kilt in the room, right?
Right.
But don't T.
No, that clues K.
Yeah.
Well, what about and he mentions turtles and tortoise as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just one, consistent one.
Well, my interpretation there was that the guests don't know the difference between turtles and tortoises, but the guide does.
Or you
That
can't.
might be too surface a reading.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the difference necessarily either. He does refer to a bear as having tusks. So,
Well, I think that in room 42, he might not actually be talking about the bear.
The guy is a tiger. 42.
I know it had to be a saber-toothed tiger.
There's no other animal I can think of that has tusks and claws. So the Usenet group thought it was a boar. I think.
Does a saber-toothed tiger really have tusks, per se?
Yeah.
And it has big teeth. Do those count as tusks?
Fangs. I think it's full.
Not. Their tusks go way out.
Yeah, but
Okay, but is that what's required for something to be a tusk?
Hey, so there are tusks in the way a walrus has stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really sure on.
okay, moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's move on.
That's all I had for 20. Are we done with 20?
So actually, there's something that I don't think you mentioned. You're talking about potentially there being clues to room 5 from here.
Yeah.
And it strikes me we have that extra S newspaper thing, but there are 2 of them. The one on the bottom, it doesn't have extra, and part of it is obscured. What if instead of an S, that's a big 5?
Oh.
The hidden part could be a sharp corner.
It's possible.
Like, I think depending on how the bit that's hidden is drawn, it could be more 5-like.
You could.
Compare it to the 5 sign is what you'd need to do.
Yeah,
They're
it's not
different.
perfect.
Where they echo.
Really, you would want the top part to be more horizontal than it actually is here.
Yeah. And that's have that little jag down. But I was kind of thinking along those lines too. Not quite as clearly as you. But
I would. Something else I didn't mention, which again doesn't help towards a solution, but I think the reason why the S is presented that way is sort of like a newspaper, with the extra, or at least that's the sense I get from it, extra.
yeah,
I think it's because this is the door behind story from room 1, so that it's just sort of, I guess it's red herringish, but it's sort of presenting it like a newspaper story. Like you come here and you see a story. Okay.
Why is it extra S?
no one has a good explanation for that. I mean,
it's for the riddle, isn't it? Because you need to.
What they say is that, well, there are two S's there, but you only need one for the riddle of the path, so one of them is an extra S. But
so to clue in a letter S, he drew an F, then an extra F.
yeah, and
might be a little joke.
Okay.
But see, that's what's a little, yeah, it could be, it's a little unsatisfying, and that's why.
A little, like, why not draw an S and then an extra K? Because you don't need the K, you just need the S.
I think then it would be a double K instead of an extra K. You can't have extra unless you already have one.
I think they're separate in the sense that the one that's extra that's apparently not needed, maybe it has something to do with the guide. I think it's Minos at this point, just because he said it was mentioned on the thing and the little crowns. And I'm jumping to conclusions, but that's what I think. Anyway, that's I digress. Let's get back on topic.
I guess it certainly is true. I mean, the S could relate to the solution of the room in addition to an S being there for the riddle of the path. That's, we probably, I would guess there's more going on with those two S's than just he drew two and he only needed one, so he labeled one of them extra.
Hey.
Maybe he only had one wood block left.
I couldn't go back.
Yeah, it's like, why did I draw that? Here, extra.
Can I cover it up with something? No? Oh, well, at least there's right extra.
Okay. We good with 20?
I think so.
Yeah.
All right. 44, Alex.
All right. So I originally chose the room with the musicians, but then at the last minute, as I usually do, I went from 36 to 44. So here we are, palm tree and the crocagator and all the other elements. So, I mean, there's not much. I mean, I was really looking at I've been looking at this book all damn week, so it's not fresh in my head. But I was looking for like patterns in like ABC, like alligator, bird, column, or something like that. I didn't even get anywhere with that. Or crocodile, bird, and then something with an A. They don't actually mention the columns though, and somebody made a good point that it's a Corinthian column, meaning the style of the capital, the top of the column, as opposed to Doric, which is a simpler style, and Ionic, which is used elsewhere in the maze. They have a couple of Ionic columns. They look sort of more like those scroll tops, and that was a Corinthian was the last sort of style, like in history and time. That was the peak of their how ornate that they made them. But yeah, like again, I didn't find anything really past that type of stuff. I think it was Gentile who said if you compare, like, okay, so the alligator's he's obviously walking around because you can see his drag marks in the dirt. What if that was true for the column as well? Like if the column turned as well, then it would close door 18. I think that's an interesting point. Sort of reminiscent of the movie Labyrinth, when Jennifer Connelly's she uses chalk to put an arrow on the stone, and then when she's not looking, two of the little goblin guys turn the block so it's facing a different direction. So in that way, the maze is alive the way I'm seeing it, where it's like, if one thing can turn, why can't the other one by itself? So I don't know. That's not my solution. That's Gentiles, but I think it's there may be something there. The other things I noticed, again, I'm not really good with text and like putting word puzzles together, but I'm noticing that the shadow of the column falls on door 21. This is not really one, but the lasso robe sort of looks like a 9 where it touches the ground. But that's debatable. Like, I'm not going to really go there. That just, I was like, oh, it sort of looks like a 9, but, I'm not going to It's not a big deal. And of course, the statue in the middle, the only one with an arm, is the arm pointing to 21. So, what is this? This is a loop, and there's 2 unmarked doors, 4 and 31. I believe this comes off the path, right? Like you can land here from somewhere in the path.
Come here.
Yeah. It is an outdoor room. I don't know if there's any correlation, if there's like any pattern there with rooms that are outdoors versus in. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think much on this. I mean, the only thing I noticed of note was that the statue at the left is wearing a crown, and the other 2 are wearing helmets. That's maybe of note. And then I was looking for micro clues. I like to call them the Where's Waldo clues, sort of like the Book of Matches in the Def Leppard room. Like that was really hard for me to see it. So, well, it wasn't really hard for me to see, but I couldn't have seen it if I only had an online version of the book. You can only see that kind of stuff in real, if you own the book. So go buy those books, viewers. They're only like $7 on Amazon. Cause yeah, but anyway, so that's really all I have.
In the podcast, and it does not have a copy of me.
Yeah.
If you're listening to all of this and you haven't even read Maze yourself, I'm impressed. But seriously,
You definitely need to contact us because you love something about us that I can't explain. If you're willing to listen to us talk about a book you don't own for this period of time in this way. Sorry.
we'd love to find out what's going on there.
So anyway, so which of these doors is better to go through? Neither? Or is one a little better than the other?
Got to go through 18. If you go through 21, you go into a loop where you either have to come back here and go to 18 or you fall into the trap.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. I have a few things I've noticed about this room. And one might tie directly to what XT just said. So there's if you see a 9 on coming off the column there's also 9 spikes coming off the crocodile, and 9 and 9 is 18. That's one thing. The statue, I was looking more at where the statue's palm is pointing, because it's all about palms and waving in the textually, and it's waving towards 18. And one thing to note about the rooms going into it, there's this big argument in the text about whether or not, well, not a big argument, but a dispute between the guide and the people about whether or not they went in through 18, because that's the door that's open. 18 of the 4 doors that are in this room, 18 is the only door that doesn't come into this. You can only come in the room through the other 3.
Yes, the guide is straight up lying there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe the children were referring to a closed door when they said who left the door open.
What about they vanished?
Like children do.
Yeah.
The children are always asking why closed doors are open.
Oh man. Gentile noticed where he says that the statue, well, I shouldn't say that. He's put in his walkthrough that the statue in the middle was Athena, which I rolled my eyes at first. But the thing is, she does seem to have the owl helmet. You know what I mean? She's got those eyes on the side.
I think it looks like Athena in the sense that it looks more like Athena than any other Greek statue representation.
I don't say.
Yes, it looks more like Athena than it does, say, Hera or Aphrodite or any of those. Vesta or Hestia, as it is in Greek, goddess of the hearth. Like, no, this is.
I don't know that there's anything about the statue that really makes me say, oh yeah, that definitely looks like. I mean, I don't even know that there is a consistent look for Athena, except the owl helmet definitely is an Athena characteristic, and that's what that looks like to me. Unless there's some other explanation for what that thing is.
Looks more like Pac-Man eating her head.
Yeah.
or a fish, a large fish.
This one
uses from it.
Well, when did Pac-Man come out?
Oh, it came out like before the book.
Man fever.
Yeah.
But that would fit though, because she's like a ghost vanishing through the walls.
Although Pac-Man shouldn't have two eyes visible.
I know, yeah. Yeah, no, it does. I see the Athena argument. I do. I see that. I'm not convinced though.
Well, what would
Not as obvious as that picture of Orson and Valentine.
Yeah. But in any case, I actually found someone had said that on John Bailey's site too about this being Athena.
With the owl helmet?
Yeah.
Specifically the
The
owl helmet?
same person claimed that the statue on the far left was actually Pocahontas. Apparently,
that's not Pocahontas.
That's good.
apparently,
It looks like more like an inking person.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the person on the right is a knight of some sort, right? So we have 3 different cultures here represented.
yeah. Well, let's not accept that Indian.
Well, maybe we're onto something here. I do think they do look like 3 different cultures, because the style, like the fashion of the one on the left is totally different from the middle one, and the one on the right is obviously a crusader or some kind of soldier. So
See, I did think like King, Queen, Knight.
yeah, those are both women. The one on the left and the middle, they're both women.
Oh yeah.
That could be a man.
So I don't think that looks like a man. It's got like she has long hair, and that crown in chess is more reminiscent of a chick's crown than a guy's crown.
But it might not be chess related.
Well, no, but I'm saying generally, like, that style of crown in most mythologies is an effeminate crown. That's not a masculine crown.
Well, look at the hair on the left hand side in 7. I think the crown is kind of reminiscent of that crown.
Even regardless of the crown, she's wearing a dress.
Could be a kingly robe.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking different cultures, you can't use the same sort of assumption.
Maybe the sex doesn't matter that of the statues. Maybe it's just the fashion.
Yeah.
You said king, queen, knight.
One other note, while we're thinking about that. So the crocodile is following the bird, right? We could assume it looks like I'm looking at the bird, going to snap the bird up. After the people vanish through the wall, which is a stark image, the guide follows them, which I don't know what that means, but I think they're on purpose, especially considering he just lied to them.
Yeah, no
Like the way the crocodile follows the bird.
Yeah, no one's stated that in the Abyss, but it seems like that's at least a solution to a minor puzzle that the narrator is clearly lying to them, which he's always trying to misdirect them. So the fact that but it doesn't say that they went through the door that he lied.
No, but it's super obvious. Like even when I was a kid, when I was like 13, 14, it was like so obvious that he lied, even when I wasn't even tracking doors and stuff. So I think that's the fact that it's obvious that it's a lie is a clue almost, in my opinion.
No, I'm right, but I'm saying it doesn't then say that they went through the door that they were talking about.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't specify it.
Look real close at the statue in the middle, like underneath the amulet on her chest. Does it look like those are letters?
BC or DC?
Like BLVC maybe.
I
don't know.
I don't buy it.
Dive.
DNC.
Yeah, I think the layers in the sense that they're just kind of abstract lines that we could read letters into.
Yeah, but it does look like letters.
Yeah, I just don't know why they don't seem to serve any shading purpose there. You know, like those curved
You guys seeing her dress? It says fit, FIT, sort of like on the first crease of her jacket. Whatever. I'm just tripping.
Which crease am I looking at?
The one. Okay, let me just pull it up to my thing here.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Wait,
Oh shit! Hold on.
you're off to the
No one else talk because it shifts from SP.
Right around there, like the first fold. So, oh shit! Hold on. Oh, I should get a. You know what? Hold on.
I don't see it there.
No, you know what? We're overanalyzing this. If you have to like squint to see it,
Right? Yeah, the fact that it's hard to work out where the letters are.
well, especially it's pretty obvious. The bone tree room. I know I've started digressing here, but in the bone tree room, how like people were discussing. I don't think Vince bought it that the guy had pupils in the one, but
No, he has pupils, but he's not looking at the door beside.
oh yeah.
Right. Okay, so that's room 31.
Yeah. No, I don't. Yeah.
You're talking about the guy on the door to 19.
Yeah. Anyway,
I think back to 44. Definitely.
I didn't get much out of this comparing maybe the column is the odd man out or something because it's not mentioned at all.
Nor is the rope.
Yeah.
But neither is the alligator or the bird.
Yeah, you would think the guests would complain about there being an animal here. Big alligator.
More animals!
Hey, animals even. There's even 2 animals here. They should be going crazy. They do say the word
alligator, Kupo bird.
I don't know. I feel like, you know what? Maybe this is something. The fact that the guide is lying, the statue, even though the hand sort of looked like it's beckoning, I'm gonna go and say that it's on the side that 21 is. So the statue's lying. What else is lying here? There's something else I want to say.
The alligator is lying. It isn't really
lying up the days.
What about the shadow is shining on 21? So maybe the column is lying as well because it's shining on, or it's the shadow is on the wrong door as well. So that's 3 things that are deceiving the people into going to the wrong door.
The crocodile's tail points towards 21.
What about the rope too? Because the rope is suspicious. People don't want to go through that door, but that's lying as well. 18 is actually safe. That's maybe pushing it, but I don't know. Maybe there's something there with this whole lying theme. Like the guide is lying, the statue's lying, the shadow's lying. That's 3 things at least that are empirical. Those things exist, and they could be interpreted that way loosely. The crocodile, I don't know what he's doing. He's looking at us all sleazy.
What is the purpose of the rope here? Like, why is that door tied to this random column?
I think
how much slack in the rope, it's not going to be much to restrict the door.
I have to think that the symmetry here means something. Obviously, you've got the palm tree and the column. You've got a crocodile chained to the tree. You've got the door tied to the column. And God knows what. Because
definitely deliberate symmetry.
Well, I mean, it's deliberate, but I mean, it's the symmetry, I think, that matters. And it's the relationship between those things that we need to figure out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is 18 like a crocodile?
Well, how many letters is crocodile? Not 18 letters.
No. Yeah, it's 9 letters. Half of 18.
Well, the other half could be the 9 in the last.
Wait. The other 9 is the number of letters in alligator.
How many spikes are in his neck again?
9.
Oh, maybe there's something going on there.
Yeah, how many links are there in that chain? 25. How many statues? 3.
Well, no, maybe that's something. Maybe my offbeat notice or observation of the 9 there, and then crocodile. Wait, what about alligator?
Also 9.
So both alligator and crocodile are 9.
And if you want to talk about symmetry, so if we can compare the alligator to the guide, because they're both following, then the visitors are the bird. Right. The bird is in front of 21, so where are the guide and the visitors? They're going through 18, vanishing into the wall.
Right, yes. Oh, so you okay, yeah. And yeah, I guess that works because if the bird walks towards 21, he's still within range of the alligator snapping him up. Whereas if he goes to 18, he won't be in range of the crocagator.
Well, we should note, White Raven has said that this room has a linguistic solution.
Oh, right.
Who left the door open? Or you talking about like play words?
But I like that connection he was following. He followed them, and that following. Oh, something we didn't mention is this business about someone leaving the door open. This might tie into the series of rooms where you're following the man with the top hat.
Oh, yeah. And those diggers.
Yeah. This could be another room like that. We don't know what the purpose of those rooms is yet, whether it ties into the identity of the guide or what the deal is, but there's certainly a pattern of that dude showing up in ways that don't seem related to door solutions.
Yeah, and 18 is the room where he loses his hat.
Are you sure it's a hat on the floor?
All right.
Hey, the guests say who left the door open. We've left in there. Maybe when the guide says we came in that way, he doesn't mean through that door. He means they came in through one of the left doors.
So he's actually telling them the truth.
Well, telling the truth in an extremely misleading way.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's not a sensible reading. I mean, that way. Yeah, the way clued by one of the words in your sentence, but not the meaning.
Yeah. And what would that mean for the larger?
I don't know.
All right, I think we're done with this room for now.
Yeah, which I think means we're not.
We're done. Did I show you this game Dixit real quick?
Oh, I like Dixit.
You like Dixit? I think it's kind of maze-ish. And I wanted to show, these other two fellows don't know Dixit. Yeah, in a way, because in a way you're trying to create these clues, right?
Yeah, it has a similar sort of abstract-ish imagery.
Yeah. Okay, so here's some cards for Dixit.
Let's just say we've concluded the maze portion of this podcast.
Yeah.
Time for games with Greg.
You might like Dixit.
Okay.
So here's the box. You can see the box if you're interested in it later, because there's different Dixits, and the artist really matters. And the artists in the blue boxes are different than the artists in the orange boxes. And I think the artist in the orange box is preferable. And I think it's more maze-like, more Manson-like. So here's some cards for Dixit. And what you're doing in Dixit is you're taking turns, and everyone's going to have a hand of cards, and you're going to take one of the cards, and you're going to say something or make a sound or a song or something. You're going to put it face down, and then everyone else is going to put a card face down. And then you're going to mix them up and put them out, and people are going to vote on which card they think is yours. Now, the trick is, if you're too obvious and everyone guesses your card, everyone gets points except for you. If you're too vague and nobody gets your card, everyone gets points but you. So you want it to be a good enough clue, and I'm using clue because we're trying it into maze. A good enough statement or clue or whatever, so that just some people get it. The best possible scenario for you as the person putting down the initial card is for just one person to get short, right? Because then they get point. The person who guesses yours correctly gets points, and so do you. All right. So it's kind of like you're using this pre-made art to create kind of like a portion of a maze room throughout play of the game.
You know what? That's really cool. I think we should do a segment on games at the end of all our things. Like just to,
should.
We should, because get back into the spirit of the 80s and the 90s when games were big business before the internet, because they were, man. All that Trivial Pursuit and all that other stuff.
Yeah,
and there's been a big resurgence.
Yeah, there is. There has been. So do you play a lot of games, Ben?
Yeah, I do.
That's my jam.
All right.
Yeah, I love board games with the gaming groups here in DC.
I just talk about the podcast that's been going on for almost an hour and a half.
Oh,
I
okay.
thought we were going to keep talking about Dixit.
We can keep talking. It just doesn't have to be part of the podcast.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up with the post.
Okay, well, thank you so much for spending time with me and these other fellows, and I hope you have a wonderful time watching us talk about our beloved book, Made.
And we want you to join us. We want you to contact us, get involved. Next week, hopefully, we'll have some new people here. There's a lot of other people still involved with the maze solution effort. We're trying to get David Gentile in here. Luke Powell, Beelzebubble.
Perhaps even White Raven himself. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You'll get a wooing button.
and a Guy Fawkes mask.
Well, and in the meantime, you can read all about our ongoing efforts online at www.themazepals.com.
Not actually.
Dance Body, Public Defender.
White Raven, if you're watching this and you heard anything deserving of puzzle points, please just put it on the website and give it to us, because I don't think we're going to go write all this stuff down.
Courtesy of the name Vance Watley, Public Defender.
Yeah, I'm not too convinced you're going to give us any puzzle points based on anything said here tonight, though. Okay. Good night. Oh, I forgot to give you Manson's phone number, which